The historic Convocation Hall of the Mumbai University played host to Asia's future. Today we are going to get into a very different setting. For those of you who are unaware, the place that we are sitting here today has extreme historic significance for Mumbai city and also for every young entrepreneur sitting in this room. This is the place that all the action happened. This is the old trading floor of the Mumbai Stock Exchange before it went electronic. And this is, believe me, if you can shut your eyes, you can actually still hear all the activity and all the dynamism of the trading floor that still exists and resonates in these amazing rooms. Thank you very much for being here this morning. This is the main summit of the Commonwealth Asia Alliance of Young Entrepreneurs, and we will be having today a series of 5 panel discussions. For those of you who love to tweet and who love to sort of tell the world about what you're doing, our event is also being live streamed across millions across the world. So this event is now you are actually on camera, so please make sure that everyone sort of knows that you are actually being beamed out to millions around the world. We also have a hashtag for this event. For those of you who are tweeting out, it's #CAAYE2012. That is the official hashtag for this particular event. So please feel free to go out, tweet as long as you want, and make sure the world knows about what you are hearing and listening and learning today. Our first panel discussion this morning is about building a youth entrepreneur ecosystem. It is going to set the context for the rest of the panels which will ensue during the rest of the day. We have 5 extremely distinguished panelists, and I have the pleasure and privilege of introducing the moderator, Dr. Naushad Forbes, Director of Forbes Marshall. He's India's leading steam engineering and control instrumentation firm. He's also been a consulting professor at Stanford University in the program of Science, Technology and Society from 1987 to 2004, and developed courses in technology and policy in new industrialized countries and the management of technology in firms in newly industrialized economies. Dr. Forbes has a book co-authored with David Beal, From Followers to Leaders, Managing Technology and Innovation in Newly Industrializing Countries, published in 2012. Thank you very much, Dr. Forbes, for agreeing to moderate this panel. Mr. Ashish Chauhan, Managing Director and CEO of the Bombay Stock Exchange. Thank you very much, sir, for this amazing venue and for extending support to our alliance. Mr. Chauhan works as the MD and CEO of the Bombay Stock Exchange, Asia's first stock exchange. Bombay Stock Exchange is ranked first in the world in terms of number of stocks listed, 5th in the world in terms of number of trades per day, and 9th in the world in terms of market capitalization. Mr. Chauhan also serves on the board of directors of Indian Clearing Corporations Limited, Central Depository Services Limited, the United Stock Exchange of India, amongst many others. Mr. Chauhan also set up and operated NSE's equities and derivatives market from 1994 to 2000, and due to his work in setting up a modern exchange, he is known as the father of derivatives in the Indian financial markets. Mr. Chauhan, thank you very much for agreeing to be on this panel. To introduce the other 3 panelists, I'm going to call upon Ms. Devita.
Thank you, Rahul. A very warm welcome to you on behalf of CAAYE. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to introduce Mr. Tushar, Jani, Chairman of SCA Group of Companies. Tushar is the founder chairman of Blue Dart Express Limited, the premier international domestic courier company, which was taken over by Brits Express in March 2005. Presently, he is the chairman of Blue Dart Aviation Limited, the first private air cargo carrier in India, having its own fleet of 7 aircraft. An innovative engineer at heart, Tushar has envisioned, founded, and mentored numerous companies. He is also the founder chairman of Express Industry Council of India, which is an association of all companies in the business of courier and express cargo. Currently, Mr. Jani is the chairman of Confederation of Indian Industries Western Region, Logistics and Subcommittee, and the immediate past president of the Association of Multimodal Transport Operators of India. A strategist and executor at heart, he is also the proud father of Jani, our past president of CAAYE. A very warm welcome to you, Technologies develop a product range that includes intelligent TVs, waterproof LCDs, car TVs, etc. Over the course of career, Devita has amassed many awards and accolades. At the age of 26, she won ZTV Youngest Achiever Award. At 29, named the Indo-American Society's Most Outstanding Women Entrepreneur. She's also the youngest businesswoman on India Today's list of 25 most powerful women in India. A very, very warm welcome to you. She's a trained Indian classical dancer, takes an active interest in drama and is an expert in Ekabala and bonsai and has an experience of jewelry design. But having known her for a while, she's essentially a very, very happy person and a member of BIA. And I think that's complimentary. So thank you so much for joining us today in the morning. Alex Mitchell is the co-founder and director of Young Brits Network, a social enterprise focused on promoting the views and interests of young entrepreneurs from Britain internationally. He's head of the Influencer Relation at the Institute of Directors. He's also the current UK president at the G20 Young Entrepreneur Alliance, and he's the current vice president of the European Confederation of Young Entrepreneurs, the major association of young entrepreneurs throughout Europe. Alex has been wearing multiple hats, and he has been a member of external advisory board of Winspread, a business representative on UK Trade and Investment, Asia Task Force, and a member of India-UK JETCO. I also know that he writes extensively, and he writes extensively for all the papers. Currently, he's writing an article, a detailed research article on Bharati and its colors and energy. A very, very warm welcome to you, Alex. Connecting people is his forte, and we are happy to have you here today with us. Thank you, Alex. I request Naushad to take over now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rahul and Devita, for those very nice introductions. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be with you this morning. First of all, it's a great pleasure to be in this hall. I grew up in Bombay. I saw this building rising as I was growing up, actually, but I've never actually been in it. So it's a great pleasure to actually be here. Ashish, thank you so much for hosting us. Let me start with a little personal background. In 1983, I just spent a year working with a consulting firm, a part of my life that I've since tried to forget. And I was trying to figure out what to do next. And I went and met some of my professors at my college to say, well, you know, what do you think? Which kind of company should I go to work for? And they said, well, have you thought about doing a PhD? And I said, no, I'm not the PhD type. And they said, what would you really like to know a lot more about? And I said, well, what I'd really like to know a lot more about is, this was at Stanford University, and I said, is creating Silicon Valley in Pune. And they said, creating Silicon Valley in Pune. I said, that sounds like a good PhD topic. So I said, can I really do a PhD on a topic like that? And they said, you can do a PhD on anything you wish. So when I started on my PhD, that was actually the topic. It was how would one create the kind of entrepreneurial ecosystem that one saw everywhere in Silicon Valley in Pune. Now, as I actually got into the PhD, it became very clear that there were so many variables that trying to do a comparison was pretty well impossible. And I ended up doing my PhD purely on building an entrepreneurial ecosystem in Pune. And the Silicon Valley bit was left out of the thesis, but it was very much a part of my mindset with which I approached the whole topic. So this is a subject, I don't think Rahul knew any of this background, but this is a subject that has actually been very close to me for a long period of time. So it's a particular pleasure to be with you. What I thought we would do is that instead of me making any introductory comments, I would actually turn things over to our panel. they will each make brief comments, 5 minutes of comments. Then after that, I'll ask a few questions. And then we'll open it up for questions and try and make this as much of a discussion as we possibly can. Yes. So I will start with Ashish, and then we'll go on to Tushar, then on to Devita, and we'll finish up with that. Thanks.
Mr. Forbes, Mr. Jani, Mr. Saraf, Mr. Alex, Mr. Catherine, Mr. Islam, Dr. Merchandan, Dr. Mahajan. Friends, it's a pleasure and honor to have you all here today morning. It's one of the nicer times to be in Bombay. Otherwise, we say in Bombay we have three weathers, or three ways of doing it. It's hot, hotter and hottest. It's a much cooler sort of climate today because you have come at the right time. And since we are at the center of the ecosystem we're discussing today, but somewhere on the line, if you look at what Mumbai is and what Bombay was, a couple of days back I had a visitor from Portugal, and he said the Bombay is actually a Portuguese word, and I'm glad that British is still kept it. Bombay was actually a Portuguese colony. It was made of 7 islets, and it was given in dowry to a British prince when the marriage happened, and that's how. And nobody stayed here, barring a few fishermen. And later on, there is a city called Surat from around 200 kilometers from here on north side. It was looted by a local ruler called Shivaji. And 3 times in 3 years to fund his wars against Mughals, that's people who were ruling North India. And the Britishers went to the Shreshtis, that is the people who were doing business in Surat, and said, we will protect you, come to Bombay. And the city was set up as a city of Bombay, and then later on it became Mumbai in the last 20 years. But the fact is the city is the city of migrants, and it has an ecosystem of entrepreneurs, is unparalleled in the world. In fact, the BSE was set up in 1875 as a native share and stockbroker association, native as opposed to British. In a sense, it has had a kind of a nationalist sort of a framework. It has still kind of maintained its ability to change with times. And the way we look at it is, how do we keep on working on getting the productive savings into the productive capital, because India has a huge issue in terms of the demographics. Today, India accounts for almost 16% of world population. Out of that, 50%, that is more than 8% of world population, residing in India is less than 25 years. It's basically the future of India, future of the world. 8% of the world population, and 50% of India's population is less than 25-year-old. India has a huge job. I keep on telling all the people I meet is that India's job for next 20 years to create jobs. Somewhere on the line, the entrepreneurship was not a great word, say 20 years back when I started my career around 22, 25 years back. Entrepreneurship, making money. India has been basically a country which worships, in a sense, people who give up money. And somewhere on the line, when we became independent, we also took a framework called socialism. We became a socialist republic of India. And like what we do, everything we do half-heartedly. So we never became fully socialist, we never became fully capitalist, but we had this capitalistic institutions which remain. And somewhere around 91, India realized that it has to move from socialism to capitalism. In 20 years, or 21 years now, I'm happy to report that we have been able to create many role models like Naushad, like Tushar. There are many more who are living examples to millions and millions of youngsters. 500 million youngsters are looking up to the sort of these role models to say that I want to be an entrepreneur. Making money in India has become a very respectable thing in the last 20 years. which was not so, and it was always felt that making money is basically some guilty thing. If you have made money, you have committed some sin somewhere, which we don't know. Today, it is not so. Today, making money is a very prestigious thing. It's a very ethical thing. And somewhere on the line, one of my friends from Pakistan, he is also in regulatory framework, he had visited us last year, and we were discussing, say 20 years back, India and Pakistan look very similar in terms of their GDP per capita. In fact, Pakistan had a better GDP per capita. And we were discussing, saying, how is it that in 20 years, now Pakistan has gone into a different direction, and India has gone into a different direction. And I said, in 20 years, what we have done is that we have created role models out of our entrepreneurs. There is no other better ways to create entrepreneurship other than creating role models. And India has successfully created, so I say it's basically a land of billion entrepreneurs. Every kid wants to be a Nandan Nilekani. Every kid wants to be a Bill Gates. Every kid wants to be a Steve Jobs. And even the kids who do not have opportunities. And for me, that is where India's future lies. And I have tremendous hope for the future of India and future of world. Since you have come all the way from different countries, I would urge you to look around, move around in Bombay. I've seen the newspaper reports today that India, the Bombay has been sort of ranked amongst the dirtiest cities in the world. And you will find entrepreneurship even in the sort of dirty part of it, that people have started creating tourism within the slums of Bombay. So somewhere on the line, you can find entrepreneurial activities happening in every heart, every mind of Mumbai. And I'm sure you will kind of take some of that spirit with you when you go back home. For me, the way we have tried to create is, BS used to be what we call main board. Now we have become we have been told by the government and also the regulators to create a place for the small and medium enterprises to come and raise funds. Today we have 11 companies listed. Yesterday we actually launched an SME IPO index. It has given around 34% returns in last 6 months, which is, if you analyze, it would be probably 68%. But the fact is, the SME segment of BSE is alive and kicking, and huge amount of activity in angel funds, venture capital, private equity, and so on and so forth is happening. I think time is short, but for me, thank you very much for coming to India, thank you very much for coming to Mumbai, and thank you very much for coming to BSE.
Thank you, Ashish. I couldn't agree with you more on the importance of role models. When I was doing my thesis and reading about entrepreneurship, role models, they say that role models play two essential roles. They play the role of making entrepreneurship seem like a feasible option, and they make entrepreneurship seem like a desirable option also. So if you look at me, then you should say that entrepreneurship is a feasible option. If you look at Tushar, then you should say entrepreneurship is a desirable option. So I'm going to turn things over to Tushar.
Well, for me, entrepreneurship is a spirit, and the ecosystem starts within you. You have to believe in it, that yes, you can do it. And then everything else falls into place. When I started my company in 1983, and some of you may not believe this, but to get a telephone connection was an 8-year waiting period. You put your office into an area where telephone pair is available. You take an office in a building where a telephone connection can come to your office. To get an approval from the government, we would use good offices, friends in Indian Airlines. So the secretary of the ministry is flying on that flight. You get a seat next to him, so you get 2 hours to convince him that your project is viable. So that was the ecosystem then. And from then, we have, walked or run quite a bit now in India. You can go across to the government, you get your communication, you get your technologies with you. So if you have a spirit, I think it's the first important aspect is spirit. If you have that spirit ecosystem, you will create. You don't need external people to help your ecosystem. You are entrepreneur when you are innovating something, be it process, be it government procedures, be it the business model, be it the customer base, and that's what is important. For me, it's an exciting time, and I see, first, that now I'm introduced as my daughter's father. I think so. That's the last Sachin Tendulkar test when not scoring runs, you know. So it's time to retire probably. And you know, my friend Mr. Saraf is in the same boat as Devita sitting here. I asked her, I said, has your father given up? And she said, no, not yet. Anyway, but the coming back to the entrepreneur is that first you have to be convinced about what you want to do. We started company with 30,000 rupees and sold that company for 1,200 crore over a span of 17 years. That's the valuation you can create. I went to Dubai for 2 years to build an enterprise, and I came back and I realized India is the right place to be built enterprise and corporation. This country has ethos, this country has social values, this country has a capital understanding, this country has market, and now in the end we have young people. And most important, we are all technology savvy. So I think if you, each entrepreneur, when you're saying 50% of the population, imagine if all 50% develop that spirit, that yes, I can do it, and I will do it. Imagine where India would be. And this is where we are going to build China. The only our hope to build China would be the young entrepreneurs. The only hassle what I see is, and I'm sure you have your bank chairmen coming in the next sessions, people don't give money. They're asking collateral. Now for a young entrepreneur who's 25, 30 years old, where is the collateral he has? And that's where the major challenge is. And that's where exchange like yours and the government has to work to sign checks. If you can waive off loan for the farmers, at least give loans to the youngsters. I'm not asking to waive them. I think that's where the government has to work towards it. To give enough money to these young people who can create. I was just reading yesterday, you know, the young people have a mind. Someone wanted to sell his surname in the United States, and he got $68,000 as a final offer to sell his surname. This is how young people make money, you know. So the same gentleman wore a shirt of his competitor in his own company and got $78,000 from his competitor. Now these are the ideas which we could not think, which you can think with technology, with spirit, and more important, the globalization. Now you can go to any country and, you know, show your skill, use your spirit, use your mind, and use your skill to make money. And money for you and money for country. I think so what important is the spirit in you. And that's what I leave it with you for any questions.
Thank you, Tushar. You know, both Tushar and Ashish referred to the way in which the environment in India has changed. You know, one of probably my favorite cartoonists, in fact, the only reason I used to subscribe to the Times of India was so that I could read the Lakshman cartoon every morning. And one of my favorite cartoons has these two bureaucrats talking one with the other, and this industrialist walking away. This is in the bad old days. And one bureaucrat is saying to the other, says, you know, did you see how depressed and miserable that businessman looked? That shows our policies are working. Things have changed. They've come a very long way indeed, as you pointed out. And there's great opportunity now all around us. Turn things over to me.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a very surreal moment for me to be sitting here in this wonderful hall, addressing this wonderfully put together morning by CAAYE. Because I was actually one of the initial members of CAAYE many years ago, when we were sort of starting out with Verity and Rahul, when we were actually young Indians. And we aren't so anymore, but I think we still hold So in India, I'm seeing that change where entrepreneurship is cool, it's accepted, and it's really what's going to drive our country forward. Because if we have this demographic of young people, where are they going to get their jobs from? Where do I see the opportunity for young Indians to become entrepreneurs? Well, I have 3 areas that I think specifically we could focus on. The first one would definitely be I would love to see more people join the family business. I only know too many smart people who think that their family business is unglamorous, or their father is boring, or whatever the reason we do not want to join family business. Well, that's one area we can immediately apply entrepreneurial thinking. And I think families should be much more, families should learn, I think, from Jeremy's and my father's and allowing their daughters in business. Anyone here from Singapore? I guess there is, in fact. Well, I have a friend of mine in Singapore, this electronics retail chain called Challenger, which is again owned by a Chinese origin person. And his daughter was with me in university in the US, and she worked out, then she came back and she joined the family business. And then I asked her, look, Biffin, why did you join the family business? And this is her exact answer. She said, I'd rather my father yell at me than somebody else. So obviously, I think being in a family business has its benefits, and it's one place if more people encourage their daughters or their sons to enter the business can create an entrepreneurship ecosystem. The second space, of course, is empowering women. I'm hoping that this forum in the years to come is going to have a lot more women who say that, look, entrepreneurship is not an option, it is the only choice. It's not a want for me, it's a need for me. I want to be an entrepreneur. I think really, in our country, women are going to drive the next wave of good change. And that will come when we empower women. And when you empower people, it's not just in finance and infrastructure and resources, but also mentality. Most people I see do not want to try something entrepreneurial because they're just really afraid of failing. And in India, there is very strong stigma against failing. And entrepreneurship is something where you will fail till you get it right. So that, unless we change that mindset, there is nothing we can do to encourage people to try to be entrepreneurs, fail, and then get up and then succeed. The third biggest area where I see the biggest catalyst of where we can see a whole surge of entrepreneurs already is happening is the internet. With more businesses going online, we definitely see that internet is a bridge leveler for people across all backgrounds. Even someone sitting out of a small town today has the same competitive advantage as someone abroad or even in a large city because of the internet. So if we promote more people and build a business that in India through online we have these entrepreneurs being very successful, I think these are the 3 areas that we can really succeed. Lastly, just as a closing remark, I would like to say that what is the main ingredient I have seen as an entrepreneur? Again, yesterday when I was speaking at CAAYE in Coimbatore, they said the topic was business in turbulent times. And I was really thinking, I'm like, when in business is it not a turbulent time? Every day it is an turbulent time. It's not about the economy today. My father had different challenges, I have different challenges. But I think the one thing that really needs to be put in youth so we can succeed as entrepreneurs is not really a drive for excellence, which is important, but also enthusiasm. So I'm very happy for all the people who have come here early morning and have that enthusiasm in them. I think the job is half done. We just need to have a million more. Thank you very much.
Devita, thank you. I think the point about role models, and in terms of women entrepreneurs, I think having role models like you and Pairoli and many others now, I think is what's going to inspire, I think, many more. I think your point also about family businesses is very critical, especially for the group that all of the people here come from, the countries that all of the people come from, where family business tends to be very strongly represented. Because family businesses do provide that safe network that enables people to fail even in an environment where failure is frowned upon. You're still a family member even when you fail as within the family business. The family doesn't throw you out of the family, it's difficult. So you stick around with the family and then you can start something else and keep going with that. But we'll come later on, we'll talk about how non-family, entrepreneurs from non-family businesses who do not have that background, one of the kinds of support networks that they need to really also have the same chances of success. Turn things over to Alex.
Right, let me start by saying salam namaste to you all. I think this is the term we're using during the conference. I just want to say, as a non-Asian country being asked to speak here, how deeply honoured I am to be not only asked to participate in your event, but also to sit on a panel with 4 amazing individuals. And I was absolutely fine about this until yesterday, when I overheard a conversation in one of the Leadership Assembly meetings, where one delegate turns to another and goes, oh, I'm fairly embarrassed for my country because we're only posting 5.4% growth at the moment. And coming from the UK where we're struggling with 1%, I was like thinking, God, I wish we could have 5.4% growth. But anyway, the UK shares a common history with you all. The Commonwealth has brought, through the Commonwealth, a common legacy. 54 countries across the globe. Huge, huge potential for not only trade, but cross-cultural understanding, cross-cultural engagement, and business opportunities, enterprise opportunities. And from my point of view, I feel that our generation can create a second resurgence of the Commonwealth. One where we create a mutual, equal understanding. One where we create an equal opportunity across all our nations. We work, trade, and interact together. And this alliance, this summit, is a classic example of that. The world is getting smaller, as we all know. We're living in a hyper-competitive global environment. One where, when my grandfather came to Mumbai in the 1940s, it took him 6 weeks by boat. It took me 8 hours and I had internet access on the plane. So it's constant connectivity and, true global interaction. It is absolutely fantastic. And as one of the other panelists pointed out, the fact that we are now living in a world which is a true leveler. Never before has a generation of entrepreneurs or enterprises, large or small, been in a situation where they can compete globally, regardless of the size of their business or where they are based, be it in an urban or rural environment. And the fact that networks like this bring together different cultures. I'm from London and I have the luck of living and working in London. One of the most multicultural cities in the world. And the ecosystem you have there, because of this multiculturalism, because of this diversity, is fantastic. Absolutely amazing. Be it a huge Indian population, Bangladeshi, Pakistani population in London. Even from our closest neighbour, France. If London was a city in France, just with the population of French we have in London, we'd be the 5th largest city in France. Now, multiculturalism and diversity sometimes is seen as in some of the press, seen as a bit of a negative. I personally believe it's a huge competitive advantage. And, as was touched on, women in business, incredibly important. The need for diversity in all aspects. Men, women, multiculturalism, ethnic diversity, and then also young and old. Different age groups. Our parents have a lot to give to business. We have a lot to give to business, and our children will have a lot to give to business as well. We are living in a global leveled environment. Now, the sort of creation of an entrepreneurial ecosystem, or I guess you could say, is there method to this entrepreneurial madness? It's touched on Silicon Valley and things like this. There are lots of reports out there about what an ecosystem is, and people usually define it as 6 key areas: culture, policy and leadership, finance, human capital, markets and support, infrastructure, etc. But every ecosystem is unique. I've seen quite a few around the world, and there is definitely not a one-size-fits-all. And I hope this session will pull out some of the sort of keys which could lead to the establishment of ecosystems, not just at a national level, but at a very rural level as well. And what I would like, before we move into this, what I would just like to finish with is that governments absolutely love to turn around and say, we create jobs. Government say, or a government minister say, we've created 100,000 jobs or 100,000 new businesses. They don't. You create jobs, you create businesses. The role of government is not to create jobs. The role of government actually is to listen to you and to try and create an environment. It is up to you in this room to create ecosystems around that. The need for governments to adopt flexible practices in all they do and flexible engagement with business and entrepreneurs is going to be critical to our success and your success going forward. And all I'll finish with is by saying, never be afraid to challenge the norm. Don't ever worry about that. Don't ever be worried about standing up and failing, as you rightly said. Stand up and be counted. It is critical that you do this. And if we do this and we embrace different cultures, we work together as an international collaboration, which is what this alliance is, then we can create a positive, sustainable, economically viable future for us all and for all our countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. One of the things that I used to teach was we looked at economic growth over time, and the UK had an economic growth rate that was 1.5% faster than the rest of the world, from 1750 to 1900. And that 1.5% made the UK the world's richest country in 1900 by a very long way, because you had this small increment of 1.5% more rapid growth, but over a 150-year period. And in a sense, what we're trying to do in countries like India and Pakistan and Sri Lanka and Bangladesh and Malaysia and many of the countries that are represented here today is to catch up on that lead that happened over 150 years, to catch up in a much shorter period of time by growing much more rapidly. And that catch-up process is what creates these great entrepreneurial opportunities now, where one can draw on technology from all over the world and then catch up that much more rapidly. That's where the real opportunities, lie then for all of us as entrepreneurs. I'm going to start by asking some questions around there was a very nice briefing note, so I'm going to start by asking some questions around some of the points that were made in the briefing note. I'll start with some questions around finance. Very often, the big advantage of a family business is that the family business not only provides social support, it not only provides an in-house dinner table role model that's present every day, but it also provides finance. It also provides security and financial backing to get something going. But if you're not fortunate to be from a family business, then where do you get your finance from? And given the kind of environment that we see in India, and maybe you could make some comments also, Ashish, if you can, about neighboring countries. Where, as an entrepreneur with a bright idea, where do you get your finance from? Where do you start?
Many sort of issues rolling. Where do you get your finance from? In a sense, I've done many businesses, and I have been an entrepreneur. And as I said, I have been a failed entrepreneur. But why I'm in BSc is because